Good morning and welcome to CSU's Cunningham Center. Welcome to the 2020 Mayor's State of the City. My name is Brian Solito. I'm the Executive Vice President at the Columbus Chamber for Economic Development. And this is an exciting and amazing crowd. The event sold out quickly, and what that tells us is that it's indicative of this community's excitement for not only Mayor Henderson, but also for the city of Columbus. At this time, I'd like to call on Adrian Chester, the pastor at the Greater Bellwood Baptist Church, to lead us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. We ask that everyone would please stand and remain standing through the pledge.
Mystic and theologian Howard Thurman, most known for his mentorship to Dr. Martin Luther King and the author of Jesus and the Disinherited, once said, "Don't ask what the world needs, but ask yourself what makes you come alive, and go and do that. For what the world needs are people who are alive." Let us pray. God, we thank you for this time of gathering to celebrate the victories of our city and also to examine what the needs are and how we as a people can come together to be alive, be a community that is alive for you. We thank you for the vision and the leadership of our mayor and our elected officials. And we ask now that as we hear the State of the City address, that God, we will come alive by hearing what's going on in our city, that we can go about making a difference in your name. For we are grateful for the words of the prophet Jeremiah, that you know the plans that you have for us, plans to prosper us and to give us an expected end. So thank you for that assurance that no matter what the news says, you already know the plans that you have for Columbus, Georgia. So help us do your will by coming alive and making a difference. It's in the name of Jesus we do pray, and we all said, amen. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Well, thank you. We have a number of people in attendance this morning that we would like to specifically recognize. And joining Mayor Skip Henderson today is Mayor Pro Tem Gary Allen, City Manager Isaiah Hughley, Deputy City Managers Lisa Goodwin and Pam Hodge, and members of City Council and other various city officials. If you all would please stand and allow us to recognize and thank you. I'd also like to take a moment and recognize the 2020 Chairman of the Columbus Chamber of Commerce with the W.C. Bradley Company, Pace Halter, and also with Columbus 2025, the Chairwoman, Audrey Tillman, who is sitting over here to my right with the Columbus 2025 Implementation Committee. Thank you all very much for your presence today. Well, without any further ado, at this time I would like to invite Carter Schondelmeyer to the stage. Mrs. Schondelmeyer is a partner in the law firm of Page, Scranton, Sprouse, Tucker, and Ford, our presenting sponsor for today's event. Carter's law practice focuses on labor and employment law. With over 20 years of experience as a trial attorney, she has defended some of the area's largest private and governmental employers. And here to introduce Mayor Skip Henderson, please welcome Carter Schondelmeyer.
Good morning. On behalf of Page Scranton, I just want to say thank you. We are pleased that you are all here, and we are happy to be the presenting sponsor again for this extraordinary event. I'm here to introduce Mayor Skip Henderson, who began his term as the 70th mayor of Columbus last January After winning an impressive 56% of the vote in the election, despite having 6 other candidates in the race. He has a knack for bringing people together and has been a dedicated public servant for Columbus. He is uniquely qualified to lead our city. Skip, after attending Columbus High and Columbus College, began in the real estate business with his father, who was an Army veteran, before moving on to be a banker at CB&T, and then to rise to the ranks of a team leader at Keller Williams Realty. During that time, he spent over 2 decades representing Post 10 on the City Council, and for over 9 years, he spent as budget chair of the Finance Committee for the City Council. He has been part of much of the progress that Columbus has seen over the past 2 decades. He has always called Columbus his home. He and his wife have raised their family here, and his family is in attendance, so I do want to recognize them, his daughter and his son, Joey. He has always managed to bring people together and to do that with a collaborative spirit. In his first year, he has tackled some of Columbus's greatest challenges and been supportive of some of its most exciting developments. I can rest assured that he is committed to making our future a bright one. So without any further ado, please let me welcome Mayor Henderson.
Thank you, Carter. Toughest job in the building today. She had to somehow make me sound worth the price of the ticket. So thank you. You did a great job. I'll try to live up to those kind words. I really do appreciate it. One of the things I learned over this last year is that you better thank people first so you don't forget them later. And I also learned that I'll probably still forget some. So if you will indulge me, I know that Brian recognized the elected officials, and we are so grateful to have them here because it truly is a unique situation in Columbus, Georgia, the way the local elected body works with the private sector, who works with the state delegation and works with our federal congressmen at the national level as well. And it just, and the whole thing just sort of has so much synergy that is what keeps Columbus, I think, moving ahead. But I do want to thank the elected officials. I also want to thank a couple more individuals. I saw Lucy Sheftal and Clifton Fay, our city attorney and deputy city attorney. Y'all give them a hand. They, as much as anybody, they work hard at keeping us out of trouble. And I want to thank Paige Scranum for your support, not only of this event, but of all of the things that y'all get involved in throughout the city, and all the sponsors that help to make this work out today. I will ask you to indulge me. I also want to thank the chamber. Let me get them. That's one that I tend to skip over because they're always there. They're always behind the scenes working. But I want to thank them for coordinating this event, and I really want to kind of lift up Brian and Amy and Audrey as the past chair and Pace as the current chair for the magnificent way they have continued to shepherd that Chamber of Commerce in the interim while we are truly without a president and CEO. That's a huge feat, and they have done an exceptional job, and I just want to congratulate them for that. Yep, absolutely. Columbus State University, one of our strategic partners and one that has just added so much to this community. You have only to go downtown into our uptown and you'll see all the magnificent changes that have taken place, and many of them are directly attributable to Columbus State University, and we thank them for their part, and Dr. Bordelon in allowing us to use the Cunningham Center today. So thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. I'm going to ask council to stand one more time and let y'all give them one more round of applause. You have no idea how hard these people work luckily they're compensated handsomely for what they do, but they work 24/7, even those that have jobs that they're supposed to be attending to from time to time. So please stand one more time. Let me thank y'all. And don't forget Pop Barnes is back there in the back. He's holding down the left side of the room today. But I can't tell you what an honor it is to be able to work with these individuals. I have worked with most of them as a legislator in the council, from a council perspective. And I know firsthand just how difficult that is, and the calls they get and how they're expected to respond, and they do an admirable job, and I just want to thank them for everything that they have allowed us to do this year and how well we have worked together, and I look really forward to the next couple of years. I also want to mention again our city manager, Isaiah Hughley. I've said it publicly. I know y'all are tired of hearing it, but it is the truth. I can't imagine doing this job without him and his office doing his job. So, sir, thank you again for all that you give to the citizens of Columbus, sometimes without much credit or thanks. So thank you. Now, if I have missed anybody, I did hear this one time, so I'm going to try it, see if I don't trip over it. Attribute it to the head and not the heart, because it just means I didn't recognize you coming in. But I also, as Carter mentioned, my family is here. And that is a unique treat for me to have them all here. It's also a little additional pressure. But first of all, of course, my dad, Barry Henderson. It's kind of like Ohio State University says the Ohio State University. Well, I am Barry H. Henderson, but that is the Barry H. Henderson. So thank you. And my sister Susan, who is the Henderson that really, she dipped a little deeper than I did in both the looks and brain side of the gene pool. I should have been paying more attention, I guess. But I'll put it this way. Judge Art Smith, I saw him at an event, and he said, you know, I took a picture of you when you were sworn in, and I posted it. You know, you got like 250 likes. I said, well, that's not bad. He said, well, I took a picture of your sister being sworn in as recorder's court. She got 600. That's all right. That's about normal. I'm okay with that. Also want to express how pleased we are to have our children here today, Karen and I. You know, you get asked a lot when you serve in political office. People say, what do you want your legacy to be? You know, our legacy, my legacy is already secure in these two young people. We are so proud of what they do every day. Kyle, our daughter, lives in Atlanta. We love her anyway. But she is doing an outstanding job. She's an incredible young woman, and we're so pleased that she made time to be able to get down here today. Our son Joey and his girlfriend April. Joey is a firefighter. He works with fire and EMS, does everything he can think of to do to turn his mother's hair a little more gray. If it's underwater, up high, or in a hazardous environment, he's typically there. We just ask him not to share those stories with his mother. And speaking of his mother, obviously I'm glad to have Karen here. Karen and I are partners in this endeavor. Would not attempt to do this job as mayor of Columbus without her. Great example, we had a little storm blow through that back in March of last year. The tornado that came through that did so much devastation in Alabama, and our hearts still go out to those folks that are still mourning the loss of family members. It clipped us here in Muskogee County. Seemed to look right for 9523 Comanche Road, but it went right over our house. And the house survived, but we didn't have that much physical damage to the property, but lost a lot of trees. And this happened in March, right? So I got sworn in January. And I don't care what they tell you about serving on council, it does not completely prepare you for this full-time gig. So I was distracted most of that time. She carried that whole load. She got the house put back together. She dealt with the insurance guy, in fact, better than I probably would have, because I'm still not sure how that worked out. But we're pleased with what happened. But I just want to publicly tell her how much we appreciate her strength, her guidance, and everything she does to keep our family on track. So y'all give her a big round. All right. I guess I think, if anybody didn't think, if you'd stand up, we'll give you a round of applause. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to try to give you a little bit of information of things that tell you what we think about the state of the city. I mean, after all, I guess we have to. That's what they called the meeting today, so we're going to have to give you our opinion on that. And we're also going to share some things. Matter of fact, I probably should have just ended this right after Pastor Chester. And see, I told you I always forget somebody. I want to thank Pastor Chester for that amazing prayer. what he talked about in his prayer, I could have sent him my notes and it would not have paralleled any better. So thank you. If I was smart, I'd drop the mic and leave now. But we are going to talk about some things that we see as challenges, and we're going to give you a little bit of a glimpse at what our vision is going into the next year and the next couple of years. Last week we celebrated an amazing man, Martin Luther King Jr., and we celebrated him in a number of ways throughout the community. There were awesome church services. There were musical presentations that Pop Barnes actually reenacted the Dream speech to music, and there were prayer breakfasts. And by the way, I got to give a shout out to the brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha for their 34th annual Martin Luther King Jr. Unity Award breakfast, and a special congratulations. I don't think he's here, but he deserves a round of applause anyway. My good friend Mayor Eddie Lowe from Phoenix City was presented the award, the Unity Award for 2020. So y'all make sure you congratulate Eddie. Thank you. But the mayor's office, in a tradition that had begun under former Mayor Teresa Tomlinson, celebrates Martin Luther King Jr. Day through what they call the Dream Lives. And it has evolved over the years. And I got to tell you, this year, if you missed it this year, man, you missed quite an event. We started it with a 5K run at about 8:30 in the morning, and it went to a call to prayer that was right behind the government center at later that morning. And once that concluded, we walked in a processional down to the Trade Center, and I don't know where Steve is. Steve's back here. Raise your hand, Steve. I know you hate being singled out. This guy's a magician, man. I don't know how he puts all the stuff together he does, but the decorations and the way the Trade Center looked was absolutely amazing. So we went in there. We had a program that included a film from the Equal Justice Initiative, and we had Spivey Green that delivered Martin Luther King Jr.'s Dream speech. I'm telling you, if you watch the newsreels, close your eyes, you can't really tell Mr. Green from Dr. King. But then it went into a musical event that had just everything you could possibly want. And it was just such a really, really great way, I think. Oh, and an additional component that was added this year that I think really set it apart from any other celebration that took place, we involved an art component. We had an art show. And all the art was celebrating Dr. King, diversity, the African American experience, and it just was over the top. But one of my favorite parts of that event was a video. The video was produced and put together by two very, very talented young men, and that was Trey Walker and Joey Roberts. We talked about Martin Luther King Jr.'s The Dream speech. Well, that's what I want today to be about. It's talking about how we work together to make all of our dreams a reality. So Tammy, if you would you roll that video? We're going to play this. It's not very long. Y'all check it out.
I'm Skip Henderson, Mayor of Columbus, Georgia. This is my wife, Karen. We've been thinking about talking about the legacy of Dr. King.
My dream is for a clean city that enhances their tree canopy and it's safe for our children to play.
Absolutely. In addition to that, our dream is that Columbus, Georgia, and this entire region is a standard bearer and an example for cities and states throughout our country to strive to be a livable, workable, connected, unified community. In addition to that, our dream is that as we look into the eyes of our neighbor, we keep looking until we see a little bit of a reflection of ourselves so that we'll understand how important it is that every member of this community have an opportunity to reach their full potential. What's your dream?
My dream is that we can have equal educational opportunities for all of our children.
My dream is that no matter how different we are, we all remember that we're in this together.
My dream is a community and world where everyone reaches their full potential and truly belongs in our society.
My dream is equal opportunity, regardless of race, gender, national origin, age, disability, economic standing, or sexual representation.
My dream is of a city and of a world where we speak a little less and listen a little more, so we can begin to bridge the divides between us and And I think what we'll find is that there's more that unites us than that separates us.
My dream is each one of us would see ourselves and each other through God's eyes.
My dream is to help build a community where my children can live and thrive, where no goal is unreachable and no dream is too small.
My dream is that young boys and girls living in poverty will be afforded the same opportunities that I have had to become educated and use that education to elevate his or her family from poverty and then pass it on to future generations. No more poverty.
I have a dream, as we are a microcosm of every city in the world, that Columbus, Georgia would rise up as an example in authentic acceptance of all demographics and through our practice of equal opportunities. That Columbus, Georgia would be a pillar of support, creativity, and community for every race, religion, gender, and sexuality.
My dream is to inspire creatives to quit their job and start their career.
I dream about people seeing the potential in the most challenging areas of our community, and that we believe in this potential so much that we can say yes more often than no when we consider what it would take to and what we can do to make a difference.
My dream is that we understand each other more. With empathy, we can do great things together.
My dream is for each individual of this community to discover the power that exists within themselves.
My dream for Columbus is that we become a place that not only retains talented individuals, but attracts them through a culture that supports entrepreneurialism, acceptance, diversity, and a willingness to take risks.
My dream is that we live in a world where everyone treats everyone with dignity and respect.
My dream is that one day teachers will be paid just as much as other professionals like doctors and lawyers. Think about it. They are lifesavers and they are handling cases and trials every single day.
My dream is for a more diverse future. I love when our community leaders echo what our community looks like. It's more inspiring.
I have a dream that the human condition will unite us and not divide us.
I dream of a day when we no longer have to fight for a level playing field, educationally or economically, and the term playing the race card has become obsolete.
My dream is to bring the world to Columbus.
My dream for Columbus is that we care more about protecting our environment by reducing the use of single-use plastics so that future generations of people and animals have the opportunity to enjoy the natural beauty around us.
As a Latina, I have been able to excel in the United States Army, as a small business owner, as an elected official in Columbus City Council. My dream is that Latinos and people of all races will continue to have the same equal opportunity that I have. The dream lives. Sí se puede vivir el sueño.
My dream is that we are kind to each other because we love each other. That means all of us.
My dream is to live in a more just and equitable world.
Our dream is for those who grew up in the dark era of exclusion to know the love and devotion
that a granddaughter has for her grandfather.
We do amazing. Let the dream live.
What y'all think? Let me tell you the reason I like that. That was one of my favorite parts. That's a reminder that we all have dreams. We all want certain things in our community, and the only way we're going to make those dreams into reality is if we all work together. We are incredibly diverse, and we want to live in a thriving city that makes us feel welcome, makes us feel safe, makes us feel like we count, and makes us feel like we can contribute. Different ethnicities, different ages, different genders, different levels of economic attainment, and different in our sexual orientation. I want to introduce a couple more people. I'm going to start with the young man who actually emceed the EGI video, and he's also the chairman of the Mayor's Commission on Unity, Diversity, and Prosperity. That's Norman Hardman. Norman, stand up just a second, if you don't mind. Norman does a great job. He and a pastor in South Columbus in Oakland Park are running a GED program trying to help people that did not graduate high school attain that that level of education so they can go on and further their educational career. I also want to introduce J.C. Jenkins. J.C. is the mayor's liaison to the LGBTQ community. And J.C., where are you? Stand up for just a second. J.C., thank you. J.C., along with Sheila Risper from our HR department and a lot of other folks, have been working to raise our MEI score. Now, if you're like me, first time you hear that, you have no idea what it is. I will tell you that what it basically is, it's an indicator that is published numerically that lets people know how welcoming we are to people of the LGBTQ community. And we've gone from a 32 to about a 71 in our score. They're currently working on a non-discrimination ordinance that I think they are trying to get put together so we can take it to council, let council take a look at it, and see where that goes from there. Our community is growing, and we are doing it by encouraging development. The uptown area continues to be one of the primary drivers of our economy. And we're talking about dreams. If you would have told me about 15 years ago there'd be 3 hotels under construction in the uptown area within walking distance of the Trade and Convention Center, I would have said you're dreaming. But they are. We've got a Hampton, we've got an AC Marriott going up, and you probably heard yesterday the exciting news from Pace and the folks at W.C. Bradley. We have a Hotel Indigo that will be down there on the banks of the river, rooftop bar and all. So if you're looking for the mayor late in the afternoon, you might want to start just above the 7th floor at the Indigo. But in addition to that, we've agreed on an MOU with a developer to add 90 rooms in a tower at the Marriott. And they're also going to put in a sky bridge that will connect the Trade Center to that facility and have our first true conference center hotel. Now, if you take all those, absolutely. Now, once they're completed, and I heard Pace had a pretty aggressive timeline, so that we may be in that rooftop by the end of this year. So, but once they're completed, if you take into account the Courtyard by Marriott over in our, as Eddie says, in our one region over in Phoenix City, we'll have almost 700 rooms, basically within a short walking distance to the Trade and Convention Center. That puts us in rare air. That puts us in a position where we compete for larger conventions, larger visiting groups, which exposes the special atmosphere that exists here in Columbus to that many more people. I know Peter Bowden is here. He and Haley Tillery from the Trade Convention Center, man, they are salivating to try to get all this put together so they can start selling it to some of these groups. I think, you know, right now when we look at Columbus and we see those iconic photos, typically they're of the river. I really believe that once that sky bridge is completed, that's going to be one of the iconic views of this community, being able to show people not having to get out in the elements to go from their hotel room to their convention area. And this one's kind of for my daughter. She lives in Atlanta. There's awesome restaurants. Well, if you're a foodie, Columbus, Georgia is becoming a restaurant paradise. Can't wait till the Banks Food Hall gets up and running. It's right on the verge. There's new restaurants, and I was going to name them, but I thought, nah, I better not do that because then y'all know how often we eat out. But there's so many awesome restaurants in town, and it joins a list of so many others that have already existed, not just in the uptown area. Matter of fact, there's one. It is a chain, but it's one that we visit when we're in Atlanta for brunch with our daughter. Pure is opening up on the north part of town, and that's an amazing restaurant. So there's if you enjoy eating unique foods, you're in the right place in Columbus, Georgia. But there are projects all over the place. There are projects moving dirt in Midland, street alignment and streetscapes in South Columbus, a new housing development that is planned to go on Victory Drive. We obtained a brownfield grant, and Laura Johnson is here, and it pains me to say when she was with the City of Columbus, she did amazing things. And one of the things she did was help us get really involved in identifying brownfields and looking for ways to use those and look for money to be able to make them shovel ready so that we can use them. So thanks to a brownfield grant to begin mitigation on contaminants in the old farmer's market site, that piece of property is just ripe with opportunity for any number of things right down there in the Liberty District area. We're taking down the tanks at the old tank farm right across from South Commons. That's going to represent one of the choicest pieces of commercial real estate that we have in this community. And when you figure that the Columbus Housing Authority is here and they still own that corner property right across from the trade center, there is so much opportunity right now in a critical point part of our community that allows us to transition from the uptown area on into Victory Drive and heading out South Lumpkin Road towards one of the greatest museums that I've ever seen out there at the National Infantry Museum. So it's exciting. You know, and those parcels of land, they give us so many options. We can go commercial or we can go with community type developments. You know, another dream that is becoming a reality is the Mercer Medical School. The citizens of this community got together and raised over $14 million to show our commitment to the governor and to the legislature and to the dean of Mercer that we really, really wanted to make this thing work. Mercer has so much confidence now in the partnership that they are no longer going to renovate a building. They're going to invest millions of dollars in building a campus. That's commitment. And oh yeah, while you guys were raising about $14 million, you thought, let's throw another $5 million in the pot and create a film fund. Jeffrey Stepikoff from Atlanta had told us that if we could raise $5 million, that the Atlanta Film Commission would provide 10 projects over the next 3 years at a minimum. Well, they did it. You did it. You raised that money almost right on the heels of this other fundraising initiative with Mercer. And there's all kinds of projects that have, thanks to that film commission, the local film commission, along with that film fund, and the Flat Rock Studio, which was donated by W.C. Bradley Company, we've had several projects come to fruition in the film industry. How many have seen Overcomer? Have you seen it? We watched it a couple weeks ago. That was the coolest thing. Sit there and say, that's Brookstone. That's Flat Rock. That's Rock Island at the Riverwalk. I mean, it is just, it really is cool to see some of the places around this community that make us so excited about living here show up on the big screen. You know, there are people, we've talked about some of the great things that we've done, but there are a lot of folks in here that their dream is simply to not have to live next to blight. Well, we invested $1 million in last year's budget, the one that we're currently involved in, to fund an initiative called Clean Up Columbus. And thanks to the Columbus Council and their courage in leaving that money in that budget, we're doing just that. John Hutchison and his team, he's our Director of Inspection Codes, and his group, they do an amazing job at removing these properties. But here's the challenge for us. We put $1 million in there last year. And the interesting thing was that $1 million did not do that many single-family homes, even though some of these homes are nothing more than uninhabitable crime magnets. Because we started with the big-ticket items first. We went after the trailer parks. We went after these areas of town that covered acres, and people were driving by every day. And there's no way they can feel comfortable or good about where they live or what they do or about their community if they're having to experience that every day as they go by. But thanks to that $1 million, we have gotten them out of here. And whatever we're able to put back in the budget this year, and it's going to need to still be substantial. It won't be the $1 million, but we're still going to put a significant amount of money in there for council to consider so that we can continue to move the needle and get rid of some of these single-family homes that are tearing down neighborhoods. You know, sometimes creating a new reality is tough. Sometimes it creates difficult circumstances. The residents of the Ralston have been living in less than safe and healthy environment for a lot of years, and we've been concerned about them and working on them. John has been out there almost every 2 weeks for 4 years, trying to hold them accountable for trying to provide safe housing for individuals that they were being paid for. This year, when we got in office, we know we had tried using the carrot, we had tried using the stick, so this time we figured we'd try to use a big stick. So we contacted the offices of Sanford Bishop and Drew Ferguson. And I think we've got Drew Ferguson's office is represented here today. Maybe not. I thought I saw Matt. But anyway, they did an awesome job of getting together, contacting HUD, getting HUD to go out there, do the inspections, and once they failed, as we all knew they would, they began a process of canceling that contract with the owner. Now there's going to be some trauma because those individuals are going to have to be relocated. But thanks to our local housing authority, in conjunction with HUD, by the middle of February, they will have a team here. They're doing the pre-work now to try to make sure that all of those individuals will be able to be transitioned into housing wherever they want to go. Even if they want, some of them may want to leave Columbus, go close to family. We'll help them with that, whatever's necessary. But imagine the impact. We hear about all this division in politics, particularly at the federal level, and it's real. But imagine the commitment of 2 elected congressmen, one a Democrat, one a Republican, who focused more on the human condition than they did on party lines. And that shows you what can happen when people come together and work together. And I just want to thank Sanford and Drew and their offices for what they did. Thank y'all. A couple other dreams that became a reality. The world came back to Columbus, the home of Olympic softball. We had international softball back at South Commons thanks to a public-private partnership, incredible work by the Sports Council to create about a $5 million investment in refurbishing, revitalizing, and putting a little polish on the apple that is South Commons. And the really cool thing is they're coming back. They're coming back this year. I think they're going to play, somebody correct me, I think they're going to play in 2 cities in Georgia. They're coming to Columbus because their coach, in his words, South Commons is the mecca of softball. And I won't mention the other community they're going to play in, but they're paying them to go, so that's okay. So again, thank you to the Sports Council for what they've done. And that represents another public-private partnership, because I tell you, if you go out there and see all of Holly Browder's people from Parks and Recreation out there taking care of those fields, getting them ready at a pristine level, you understand that it really does take a huge engine to try to make sure that experience is enjoyable for those folks. City Village. Everybody's aware of the City Village initiative, and that dream is working closer to a reality. The partnership with Purpose-Built Properties is focusing on access to health care, access to quality education, and access to affordable housing. When that becomes a reality, and it will, that should serve as a model or a boilerplate for us to take into other parts of our communities within Columbus and do the exact same thing. You know, to create a foundation for our dreams to become a reality, we continue to work to strengthen relationships with our strategic partners. And we've got so many that we count on so heavily. Columbus State University, we talked about, the Chamber of Commerce, Columbus 2025, Columbus Technical College, and Muskogee County School District. And I told you I'd forget people. David Lewis is here, the superintendent of the Muskogee County School District. David, would you stand up so we can thank you for what you do for the community? Thank you. I hate to put you on the spot, but all of these partnerships are so critical to what makes Columbus such an amazing place to live and work. But there's one that I have to lift up especially, and that is Fort Benning. The relationship that we have enjoyed since we've been in office with the leadership team at Fort Benning, General Brito, Colonel Scalia, and Mike Burns is here that works in that area. We're just so gratified and so grateful for the opportunity to have that kind of a relationship with the brave men and women that protect this country's interest. And we just want to thank Fort Benning for all that they do, not just here in the Muskogee County and Phoenix City area, but around the globe. You know, I got to lift up one of the guys that has probably done as much around this community as anybody that you will meet, Matt Swift. Matt has recently been placed on the State Board of Economic Development, and you have no idea how huge that is for keeping us top of mind with regards to projects and recruitment opportunities. And also, very recently, Richard Smith was named the Rules Committee Chair at the state legislature. That is an incredibly important and powerful position to be able to hold, and he is in a position to put a lot of influence on what goes on in the state government. You know, Representative Smith, along with the dean of our delegation, Calvin Smyrie, they're probably one of the best 1-2 punches now that exists at the state level. So the relationship with our strategic partners in Atlanta is getting stronger. Now, I will say I can't stand here and give you an update on the city without mentioning the government center, because I know, because whether it's church, golf course, Publix, wherever it is, we get asked about the government center. Very briefly, I'll tell you that there was a design team selected. They are currently doing a needs assessment, a space allocation assessment, and they're working very hard to try to make recommendations on how to meet our needs based on the functionality of the government. They should have their work done soon. I know we're very close to selecting a construction manager, and then it will fall to council to try to determine which location, where the buildings are going to go. The citizens will have a chance in November to go to the ballot booth and make a decision on the best way to pay for that construction. You know, I told you a year ago when I stood here that I felt like a special purpose local option sales tax made the most sense to try to address the needs for the government center and the judicial building, and also for some critical infrastructure needs that the city is experiencing, simply because over a 20 to 25 year period, they start wearing out. I haven't changed my mind. I still think it's the best way to go. It allows the visitors to this community who use these facilities, allows them an opportunity to help contribute towards making sure that they stay in full use. We have gone out to the community. We've visited out in each council district. We've had 8 meetings, and we've asked people to help us prioritize these infrastructure needs. We gave a list simply to go by, but we encouraged them, if they didn't see something on the list that they wanted addressed, put it on there. We want to hear about it. So the surveys came in, over 700 of them, and what we're going to do with those surveys is we're going to take all of that information, we're going to get it all put back in together into a list of projects and go back out to the same districts for another 8 meetings, just to make sure that we heard correctly and that we caught their ideas correctly. I'll tell you, the interesting thing right now is that they view this exercise just like we do. We said from the beginning that we felt like this was an opportunity to get back to basics. We have enough stuff. We don't need to build any new stuff. What we need to do is take a look at some of the facilities that currently add to the quality of life in this community and lift them back up so that they have the same level of utility that they had when they were first built. And I want to say something too about the city employees and about the staff with the city. You know, people, a favorite buzzword is you don't maintain your stuff. Yes, we do. We do weekly maintenance on it, and we maintain these properties continuously. But just like at home, you do the regular monthly maintenance on your home. You can caulk windows, and you can check some of the worn areas. But at some point, you're going to need a new roof. At some point, you're going to need a new heat pump. At some point, you're going to hit a big ticket item that you are going to have trouble funding. Well, that's where we find ourselves. We've done the maintenance, but some of these big ticket items that are starting to show some problems with some of the larger components, those are the items that we're going to have to try to take a deeper dive and try to find a way to address. And we heard from you. What seems to be coming in, people are talking about roads. They want sales tax to go to roads, sidewalks, really critical things like bathrooms at the parks, and they are critical if you're out there at the park. But they're also interested in public safety equipment, and they've talked about things like the amazing facilities we have at Woodruff Farm for a soccer complex that needs to be able to have access to fields even in inclement weather. So there's a lot of things that you have told us that you would like to see on there. We'll put it together, we'll come back out, and you'll have an opportunity to help us make the final decision. A few other realities this year. We've submitted a balanced budget. without dipping into our general fund reserve. And because of the way that the staff monitors the expenditures, we not only kept from having to dip into it, but we actually added to it. We went from around 64 days to almost 82 days of general fund reserve. And we've got a couple of goals with regards to that fund reserve. One, obviously, is to get back to the 90 days that our city manager had advised us to set as an internal target that we continue to look for. And the other thing we're trying to do is, it's all the same money, but we have carefully accounted for the other lost money, the OLOS, that funds public safety to 70%, 30% to infrastructure. So what we are using is still a little bit high on the OLOS side than it is on the general fund side. So our goal is to try to make that reverse itself. We should have more general fund money in our reserves than we do OLOS. So we're working on those two objectives. We rolled out a Passport Columbus for our young people to access either free or at a greatly reduced price any facility in the city, just about. Rec centers, pools, museums, National Infantry Museum, Westville, even the Springer and the River Center allowed them access, and the pass doubled as a bus pass for young people that had transportation issues. We created a Mayor's Commission on Reentry, thanks to Councilor House. John House had pushed for that. There was an organization that was already in its infancy, and we have rolled them up underneath the Mayor's office as a Mayor's Commission on Reentry to help felons who have done their time and paid their sentence get integrated back into the community so they don't go right back into more criminal activity. We conducted the second ever Good, Bad, and Ugly tour. It's first in 21 years, but it's the second. And most of you that are here, many of you that are here, participated in that. And we took a look at the great things going on in our community. We took a look at some of the things that could use a little kick in the pants. And then we took a look at some that are just not very good. For those of you that participated in that, I cannot thank you enough, because you gave us the most precious resource you have that most of you can ill afford to part with, and that's your time. We kept 100 people on this tour for 2 straight days. And that's critical. It allowed us to have a different frame of reference as we talk about some of the bigger issues facing our community. So as you can see, there's so many more things we could talk about, but the state of our city is pretty good. But we have other realities in our community that we cannot hide from. And one is we've got too high a poverty rate at over 21%. We've got too high a rate of unwed mothers having babies. And let me be clear about this. Some of the strongest, best educated, most successful people I know came from single parent households. So this is not saying that being born to a single parent charts your course to a life of challenge. What it is saying, though, if you look at statistics, and we got them right here at an economic update at Columbus State University, that if there is a single parent household, and it's a female, statistically, nearly 70% of those are going to end up below the poverty line. If you add a partner to that family dynamic, it drops to under 10. So that's why when I say we've got far too many young people having babies and then the male just goes on about his way, that's another issue that we're having to deal with. Too many students don't read at grade level. Too many people don't know from where or when their next meal's coming. Too many homeless people on our streets. We've got too many people that lack the skills or education to land that job that they want. We have too many people living in unsafe or barely habitable housing. We've got areas with too much crime, and as you've seen over the last several weeks, we do have areas with way too many senseless, violent deaths. So, our focus going into this next year and for the next few years is to dream into reality a Columbus that these circumstances don't exist. Now, I'm not crazy. I know we can't wipe all these things out. But I do believe that if you shoot for perfection, even if you intellectually know you can't hit it, you're going to make the needle move. So we're going to focus on that. We can't take all of them on at one time. We'd spread our resources too thin. We'd spread our human capital too thin. But what we can do is we can work on 3 or 4 of them this year. We can add 1 or 2 next year, and maybe 1 or 2 the year after that. Because all of these issues are interrelated. They're all connected. You can insert poverty in there, and I applaud Columbus 2025. They're taking a cursory peek right now at how they can, or should they, address the poverty issue in Columbus. So I applaud them. And what we're going to try to do is help parallel their efforts and support them so that we can address some of these ancillary issues that all roll into the poverty initiative. For the next year, we're going to focus on 4 different areas. We're going to focus on violent crime. We're going to focus on housing. We're focusing on health. And we're focusing on workforce development. I intend to form a task force for each one of these initiatives. Now, they are not being created to take the place or to supplant the initiatives that are currently underway in other areas. Quite the opposite. They're being created to partner with the existing organizations such as Columbus 2025. Our vision for this is to create a rallying point around which churches, organizations, and just citizens who want to make a difference can gravitate towards. Matter of fact, once these task forces really get up and running and kind of hit full sustainability, my vision would be that we sever the tie. They separate from the mayor's office. Because for me, mayors come and go. And I've told y'all before, it matters less in this community it matters less who's in political office than it does who's got boots on the ground, who's working in the businesses, and who's helping to get these things done. So we want to cut it loose and let it be sustainable so that it will survive any mayor that's in this office. Let's talk about violent crime for just a second. I know it's on everybody's mind. I will tell you that of all the things we deal with, and we hear about a lot of things going on in the community, that's the one thing that actually keeps me up at night, because every time that there is a shooting or a murder, I get a call from the police chief. And rarely do I end up going back to sleep after that. It makes me, frankly, really angry. The fact that these young people, now as young as 13 and 14, are taking each other's lives. Well, with regard to the enforcement piece, for those of you that didn't see the press conference yesterday, we're going to toughen our response through our justice system and through our law enforcement agencies for crimes that involve gangs and guns. The Metro Narcotics Task Force has repositioned themselves as the Metro Narcotics and Gang Task Force. We enthusiastically support this multi-jurisdictional law enforcement initiative, as well as the efforts of the DAs and the judges to try to send a message and to fully prosecute any gang charges that apply. Now, I still believe, as I always have, that enforcement is enforcement. It is not going to stop the majority of these crimes from happening. So we're going to continue to focus on ways to make some kind of difference and try to cut off the food supply before it ever gets to that point. You know, we mentioned in addition to the Passport Columbus and Commission on Reentry, we have found funding to, again, thanks to Laura, we'll have to call her, I guess, and we're still looking for funding. But we found funding, found a way to fund a revival of the mayor's summer youth work program. And we are in the process through our Workforce Investment Office at the City of Columbus talking with the school district. I know they've talked with some of the counselors, and here's the deal. I don't want the straight A students. I don't want the kids that are polishing their shoes every day and just can't wait to put a tie on and go to work. I want the kids with 1 foot inbounds and 1 foot out of bounds. I want the kids that, if we don't catch them now, we're going to be locking them up later. Because we're going to focus not only on, and we're going to pay them a decent wage. We're going to pay them $10 an hour or something along those lines so that they'll get a little something of value for what energy they put into it. But we're going to require that they attend life classes as well. We're going to make sure that they know how to interact with people on the work site, that they know how to submit to authority. If somebody is your superior and they ask you to do something, you need to do it. Well, a lot of kids right now want to tell you why they don't have to do it. So we're going to try to get involved with them and maybe capture some of these young people before they head down the wrong path. We're also going to continue to work with our Crime Prevention Board, and they do an amazing job. That group was set up purposely to be buffered from political intervention. No mayor should be able to go in and tell that board how to spend that money. No counselor should be able to go in and tell that board how to spend the money. Now, I do have on my schedule to meet with that crime prevention board to just talk about their thoughts and how the money is being used and how the successes are rolling in. We want to empower them. We want to encourage them, tell them we've got their back. If they decide that there's some large initiative that they're convinced will make a significant difference, we want them to go ahead and do it. If it eats up 1/3 of that money and they put $200,000 or $250,000 into one program, if they're confident that that's going to make a difference, do it. So we are going to continue to use the crime prevention money to be able to identify ways to catch some of these kids before they get into trouble. Housing. Housing also is a broad initiative. We intend to reach out to landlords. We want this to be a collaborative process. They don't want government telling them how we're going to fix the way they deal with their rental properties. So what we're going to do is encourage them to help us. We're going to encourage them to help us solve some of our issues with the condition of properties, the screening of their tenants. We want to work with the Board of Realtors. I saw John Scully here. He's the immediate past president of the Columbus Board of Realtors, and also a very good friend, by the way. We're going to work with the Board of Realtors. We're going to work with the Apartment Owners Association. We want to educate tenants as to their rights so that they understand what recourse they have if there are some issues with the landlords. We're going to get involved in neighborhood cleanups. The Keep Columbus Beautiful new director is Sharnae Ware. She's got some awesome ideas. She's even going to do a litter league that will be in each council district and try to pit the councilors against each other, see who can clean up their districts the best. I can tell you, John and Judy, y'all got a tough job. Y'all are at large. We're going to continue to revisit our ordinances to try to protect the rights of all homeowners, even the ones who are trying to enjoy their property while trash, weeds, and overgrowth are encroaching on that enjoyment. We got to find a way to protect the neighborhoods. Health, both mental and physical, are critical. I think Dr. Leiker is here. Is Dr. Leiker here? If you'd stand for just a second, sir. Dr. Leiker is already taken on the job as chair of the Task Force for Health, and man, they have hit the ground running. Thank you, sir, for what y'all are doing. There are neighborhoods where there's a higher than normal amount of diabetes, obesity, and hypertension. We're going to bring health information and screenings to the individuals at these neighborhoods. We can't wait for them to come to us. They're not going to do it. We have to include nutritional education, improve access to healthy foods. We've got community gardens popping up, like the ones that are run by Mercy Med and by the Stewart Community Home. Now, this task force will also study ways to encourage young people to engage in physical activity through the schools and at home. We've got to get the kids outside, get them out from behind those game screens and get them out there sweating a little bit and learning what it's like to run around in the yard. Our fourth area is workforce development. We're always going to keep one eye on job creation, economic development. Brian Salido, who by the way was named one of the 100 most influential Georgians. I didn't know Brian got a vote, but he voted several times. But no, yeah, give him a hand. That's pretty outstanding. But like the 600 jobs that, you can say we get 600 jobs and people go, oh, that's great. We got 600 people that are going to work tomorrow that couldn't go to work today. But it goes beyond that. Global Solutions call center solutions came into an area of town. They took over a dark storefront that left unattended was going to continue to be a very attractive place for criminal activity. So they've moved into that dark storefront. They've moved into an area where we are hopeful that it'll generate a desire to put restaurants, retail. It's just going to have the ripples continue to go out. So we're excited. We're excited about them. But we want to assist Columbus 2025 in their efforts to continue to produce a talented and educated workforce. I hear all the time, we need more jobs. We need better paying jobs. And I agree. We do. I mean, we're always on the lookout to try to find a way to create more jobs that pay a fair wage so that our families can rise as high as they can reach. However, really our primary challenge right now is equipping future employees with the skills and the knowledge to be able to qualify for the job they want. There are jobs available in Columbus right now, and companies cannot find suitable candidates for the employment. Sad part is our community offers the resources necessary to allow any individual to improve themselves to a point where they're not just employable, but they are actually an in-demand employee. Our task force is going to focus primarily on the 16 to 24 age group, disengaged youth. Think about it. If they're not in school and they're in that age group and they don't have a job, what are they doing? So the estimates that we have gotten from Martha Ann Todd, who is going to be a huge part of this particular initiative, are that about 4,000 people in our community are 16 to 24, no job, no school. Think what we could do if we just got 10% of those. Just 400 of the disengaged, get them engaged and on a path to employment and responsibility. We're also going to take a little deeper dive into our licensing process and the boxes you got to check if you want to start a business. You know, the state of Georgia, for the 7th year in a row, has been named the best state in the country to do business. Why can't we work to recognize Columbus as the best place to do business in Georgia? You never know. We might dream that one into a reality too. And I got to say this for my wife who is listening, because she is very focused on the human trafficking. I got to lift up our licensing folks because they do a great job of doing their job. But when there's an opportunity that arises to be able to impact people in other areas, they took advantage of it. They have given the Human Trafficking Task Force the opportunity to put out the posters for bars, restaurants, and hotels so that anybody who might be held captive and be forced into that type of life will see the number and it'll tell them who to call so that they can get out of that situation. You know, these initiatives are not easy to tackle. In fact, they're pretty hard. And it is not a we and them. Hopefully, as you noted in the video, this is about us. When we work to provide resources for those of us in desperate need of opportunities, we do provide hope for all of us. So as I stated earlier, I think the state of our city is outrageously strong because of the people. I'm convinced that the strength comes from the people who live here. We have challenges just like every city, no matter what size they are. But when we come together as a community to learn from and with each other, we have the power to impact lives, to impact neighborhoods, and impact our city. And I don't know if that quote sounds familiar to you, but it came straight from the On the Table brochure. So that's your quote. That came from you. You obviously believe it because we ended up with that in a community foundation brochure. Thank you for the incredible honor of being able to serve you. And before I walk off this stage, I was going to do this early, but I purposely left this to the end because I promise you, I've got people that prop me up and help me look a lot better than I am. So I want my staff to stand up. I want Richard Bishop, my chief of staff, Alexis Thompson, my executive assistant, and Becca to stand up as well. So y'all give them a hand. I'm proud of this community, and I am proud to be your mayor, and I thank you for allowing me that opportunity. So God bless all of you. Thank you.